So, in the last week, I started the third concept. The third concept is the concept of world economic system. In the last occasion, I spoke about the evolution of theory, and this was the last slide. The key concept of world economic system is a French scholar who introduced Fernand Braudel. Therefore, the original term is a French, économie monde. This is the frame, it's the English version, world economy. This is the frame, each economic unit, whole of the world. And the seed, the key factor of formation of world economic system, économie-monde, economy, world economy, it's an English version. This is an economic unit which behave as a compact and self-sustainable unit. On the starting date of the formation of world economic system, the 12th century. This is the rank list of, according to level of development in the 12th century. The most developed civilization, China. The second one, India. The third is Islamic countries or Muslim civilization. The fourth, only Europe. And the fifth is Amerindian civilization, Maya, Toltec, Aztec, Mochica. It's a Central and Southern Americas. And the sixth one, Russia, which located on that time among a three civilization pole: China, Muslim civilization, and the Christian civilization. Okay, but how we can define the term of world economy? A compact and self-sustainable economic unit. According to definition of Fernand Braudel, it's very seminal definition. There are three criteria of world economy. A self-sustainable unit of world system. The first one, it's a mistake, an area which can be demarcated well. What mean? We can define the boundary between two world economic units. For example, in some area, geographical boundaries help to define the boundary. For example, between China and Russia, there is a Gobi Desert. You know, this is desert area. Time by time, organize a caravan from China to Russia. Once a year, no more times. Once a year. Why? Because very expensive. And only luxury goods, enough high value, transport, go and back, only once a time. A little bit same situation in the case of African history, a trade between the white and the black Africa through the Sahara Desert. It's a desert area. Same situation. Therefore, we can define economic boundaries where expense of trade higher than the benefit. No reason organizing a trade because the expense much higher. For example, a Russian caravan to China financed by a Russian Tsar. Why? Because there is enough high budget in the empire. Therefore, it's not reason. It's higher the expense than the benefit. Therefore, we can define the boundaries evidently. The second definition, directed by one central city or cities in longer term. If we are looking at European world economy, the first guiding and leading city was Venice in northern part of Italy. The second one, Antwerp in Low Country area, recently Belgium. The third one, Genoa in the northern part of Italy. Again, next one, Amsterdam. Amsterdam is recently capital of the Netherlands. And the last one, London. This is the chain of European leading cities, which is the most important conclusion of us. The stable situation in the world economic system necessary to unfold under direction, one pole, one central area. If there are more core area, it's indicator of unstable situation. Look at recently our world economic system. There are three poles, three core area. East coast of United States, China, former time in Japan, but recently much more the southern part of China, around Shanghai, area of Shanghai, and the third one, a European Union, which indicate this situation. Recently, the world economic system is unstable situation, unbalanced situation, because according to the definition of Ferdinand Brodel, a stable indicator of stable situation, one core area, and three poles and three core area indicate somehow a transformation of world economic system. Of course, I don't know the direction and the term of that transformation, but one of the key reasons of the crisis, recent economic crisis, that the world economic system is unstable situation. When was stable situation? After the Second World War, on the great recovery period of Second World War, it's a stable situation. Where was the core area? East coast of the United States, around New York and the East Coast cities. And recently transformed somehow. I don't know the direction and the phases. Why? Because I am historian. And the profession, the peculiarity of the historian, looking back. It's very interesting. I had a lot of professors of history and try on the time of political transformation of Hungary, try to change profession to politician and failed everybody. Why? Because for historian, the perspective looking back. And if somebody socialized to analyzing of past, not able to forecast the future. It's different form, different kind of the function of brain. Okay, one core area. If more core area are, this is indicator of transformation. And finally, economically hierarchical area. Core area, the most developed area, peripheral area, the underdeveloped region, and the semi-peripheral area. It's very interesting. On the time, because I was 24 years old on the time of Hungarian political transformation, from socialist to capitalist model, transformed one to other. And it was a great illusion that Hungary became a very developed country in consequence to transformation of political system and introduction of capitalism. And majority of this hope expire as illusion. Why? Because a closer connection to world economic system, no guarantee for step to higher developed level. Why? Because a world economic system able integrate everything from slavery. You know the movie of Bloody Diamond. I don't know. This is the movie of Leonardo DiCaprio. You know, able to integrate the world economic system, even the slavery and the feudal structure and the modern capitalist organization too. Therefore, to be a part of global economic system, no condition and no guarantee for quick and efficient recovery. Why? Because this area in this system, one reason of the dynamism of world economic system, a different level of development. A low level, high level, and intermediary level. Very easy to define the core area. Each, for example, service and production, the most developed. And very easy to define a peripheral area. It's an underdeveloped area. Some underdeveloped area, it's a function according to barter trade. You know which is the barter. The change of goods without money. Only goods for goods. It's not so easy, but some area didn't introduce and don't use a money. And much difficult to define the semi-peripheral area, a semi-peripheral area. Because if we are looking some countries, some civilization, recently or in the past, it's quite developed. Look at, for example, France. There is a French student in the audience, no? But very interesting, the history of France, because a French kingdom was in his history very close to the core area and to the position of leading country, whole of Europe. Very close, but never reached. For a lot of reasons, no time speaking about, but look at, for example, the most developed phase of France. On the time of 17th century, Louis XIV, King of Sun, empire from southern part of Northern America to Northern Africa and large area, the largest country of Europe. On the time of 17th century, France was a Russia of 19th and 20th century. Why? Because the largest country and the highest level of population, 70 million French inhabitants lived in the French kingdom in the 17th century. In England, only 6, in Hungary, 4th, in Spain, I remember that 8 million, therefore the most populous country, whole of Europe. And this country had 500,000 soldiers. The strongest army, whole of Europe. But this country, the strongest military country, wasn't able to take the core position of world economy. Why? Because, this is the genial definition of Fernand Braudel, because the key decision about economy, French economy, took in Amsterdam, not in Paris, and Lyon or Reims, in Amsterdam. Why? Because the most important level of trade in Europe was a maritime trade by large trade vessels. On the time, in the 17th century, the trade of international trade of Europe based on 12,000 great maritime vessels, ships, large trading ships, and 6,000 from these three sailed under Dutch flag. Therefore, the rich merchant of Amsterdam decided which products export from France. Therefore, the key element of definition of peripheral or core area, which is the place and who take the key decision in the case of industrial production and the international trade. In that time, contrary to large army and well-organized bureaucracy, the key decision took in Amsterdam. Look at Hungary. You are living recently in Hungary. Obviously, Hungary, a typical semi-peripheral country. In which city take the key decision in the case of Hungarian economy? Berlin, London, Shanghai, or New York? Because not in Budapest. In Budapest, no position, no force, no competence for making the key decision. Okay, good. And no, I have to mention some words about the economy world. If we are looking at the history, we have to take into consideration, beside economy, other construction. At least two historical construction. The first one, empire, and the second one, culture. Why so important? Because time by time, the economic reason and economic interest are rivals of political interest and political decision. There are Chinese students in the audience. No Chinese? Chinese student. Okay, very interesting Turkish student. Because Turkey and China, good example, a rivalry between interest of empire and interest of economic. Because in Europe there is a rivalry between economic and political interest, but in Europe the largest empire, the Holy Roman Empire, and the economic integration larger and stronger with the political integration. Therefore, in the rivalry between pure political unit and the economic unit, won by economy. Won by economy. But the case of China, a little bit different. Why? Because after the reintegration of China, if I tell mistakes, correct me please, because obviously you know much better the Chinese history. The dynasty of Ming dynasty, which destroyed the Yuan, the former Mongolian dynasty, introduced, it was a Buddhist, the first generation of emperor, I remember. It's a White Lotus sect who organized the revolt against the Yuan Mongolian dynasty. Okay, and the first period of Ming dynasty, it was a great series of success. Said to Africa and said to China. And the key person of Chinese discoveries was Cheng Ho. I spell that, you know this kind? This Cheng Ho. Cheng Ho, I don't know, there is a lot of different spelling. I try to. Admiral Cheng Ho. Cheng Ho. You know this person? No, personally. He lived in the 15th century. He lived in the 15th century, and very interesting, because he was Muslim, under service of Emperor of China. And he and his fleet sailed to Africa and sailed to Americas too. Before Columbus. Half century, because it happened around the 20s and the 30s in the 15th century. But on that time, the Manchu folks, the Manchu Empire, organized a series of invasion against the Great Chinese Wall. And the Ming Emperor decided cancel discoveries, not only cancel from the budget, but burned down the fleet in critical situation. In Europe, started the discoveries. In China, closed officially for political reason, because each resources of empire turned toward the continental orientation and closed in critical situation. Why? Because the political interest was stronger compared with the economic interest. In Europe, happened the same, because on the same period appeared the Ottoman Empire in Europe. If we compare the situation between China and Europe, in Europe, if the same situation, political situation, had to be like in China, should to be cancelled discoveries of Vasco da Gama and Cristoforo Columbus, but no, here the political integration much smaller. Therefore, the Turkish invasion in Europe became a problem of Central European countries. Austria, Hungary, Poland and Czech area. No more, a regional problem. And resources of Portugal, resources of Spain, Dutch Republic, England, turned over the geographical discoveries. It's very important. If political interest stronger, Abel destroyed whole of economic, until the ruins, Okay, this is the relation between the empire and the economic world. Look at the culture. Very interesting, the relation between culture and economy. Very interesting. The economic center never was able to take the crown of culture. Look at, for example, on the time of Venice, which is the cultural capital of Europe? Florence. On the time of domination of Amsterdam, which was the core area of Baroque art, Madrid and Rome. On the time of great glorious period of London, which was the cultural capital of Europe, Paris. Therefore, it's very interesting. The economic pole never able dominate and take the crown of culture. Okay, turn back. If we are looking the last concept of Europe, we have to go back to the Greek mythology. The first time described the concept of Europe in a Greek myth. Probably you know this story. Europe was a Phoenician living in the Near East area, early folks of the trade, and a Phoenician princess walking on the beach of Mediterranean Sea. And Zeus, main god of the Greek mythology, walking on the beach on the form of white bull. Somebody met personally with bull? Nobody. I spent my childhood in a small village, therefore, for my, not according to my ambition, but I met a lot of times with the bulls. I'm afraid of the bull. It's very dangerous. 1 ton large animal has huge muscle and majority very low intellectual capacity and very high, not mental, but physical power. Unbelievable. I worked together with horses and cattle and a lot of different animals, but only one I am afraid. It's very dangerous. But which was the technology of abduction. It's a white bull, it's very rare. It's I don't know which is the correct biological term. It's no pigment of color pigment. It's albino, yeah, and it's quite a unique. Moreover, this bull was able to speak. It's quite rare, or very necessary, some very special material for that. But look at the abduction, the story of abduction. Not only this white bull was able to speak, but was quite clever to ask a Phoenician princess sit up to the back. It's great intellectual power, and started the abduction. It's quite a typical in the history of people, of folks, of nation rising up. If we are looking the story of Greek, this is the Greek story about the abduction of the women. Why? Look at, for example, Roman Empire. There is some similar story in the Roman history. Women's abduction. Somebody know? Roman Empire, no? In the Hungarian history, a same story happened in the area of the Crimean Peninsula. The ancestor of Hungarian, it's abducted a lot of women from Crimean Peninsula. Therefore, in the mythology of people and the nation rising up, it's a quite a typical abduction of the woman. Everything is ours, and if somebody don't want to offer for us, we are stealing. It's a normal. It's a normal in this before the age of civilization. Sabine. It's a stealing of Sabine women. This is the story in the Roman Empire. Okay, this is the first indicator. Europe, a princess, a Phoenician princess, which abducted by Zeus. But the concept of Europe appeared in the geography of Greek scholars. The Greek geographer knew three continents. The first one, Europe, and very important, the eastern boundary of Europe in the Greek geography, a Don River. Why so interesting? Look at, for example, probably you know this picture. It's a Hungarian picture, but what demonstrates well a Greek boundary of Europe. Here, a Don River. Probably you know from the news the name of this settlement, Luhansk. Around Luhansk, recently, this is the line of front between Ukrainian and the Russian army. And very interesting, and show well which is the reason of history. This is somehow the historical structure, historical broken line, activate and reactivate time by time. Therefore, very important to realize historical knowledges, because we can use and we are able to understand which kind of the rupture there are in historical regions. And very interesting, for example, a famous Hungarian historian defined three regions of Europe. Its name is Janusz Süch, not important. And from cultural sense, and separated three regions. The core regions, this is the Roman Catholic region. The second one, a new Catholicized area. And the last one, the Orthodox area. And very interesting, when in the 16th century appeared a Reformation, Calvinist, Lutheran, Baptist, and a lot of direction of Reformation. Only in the second region, a new Catholicized area proliferated. Never in the core area. Therefore, these old civilization structure function like an area of division, a newer intellectual waves. A Reformation close to the new Catholicized region of Europe. Okay, turn back. Eastern boundary, a Don River. A Don River. Why so important? Because if you open a historical guidebook about a history of medieval Europe, a Middle Ages, eastern boundary is not a Ural mountain, but the Don River. Therefore, the regions in the medieval Europe is different because the space is smaller. Okay, and second continent, which knew by the Greek philosopher and polymath, it's possible knowledge is focused and concentrate to the one brain. Aristotle was the classical philosopher and scholar of the Greek period. Western boundary, eastern boundary, Don River, and the western boundary, pillars of Hercule. Somebody know which is the pillar, recent name of pillar of Hercules? Gibraltar. Rocks and the pillars of Gibraltar. This is the frame of Europe in the Greek geography. And the third continent, which knew by Greek geographer, it named Libya recently, this is the area of Africa. Good. Our modern geographical conception changed in the 18th century. Philip Johann von Stahlenberg, under service of Catherine the Great, mapped the European part of the Russia and proposed much better eastern boundary from geographical and geological sense, Ural Mountain. Therefore, only in the 18th century pushed eastward the eastern boundary of Europe, and until the end of the 18th century take into academic context the recent boundaries of Europe. Okay, Ural Mountain became the eastern boundary. A little bit huge, more 1,000 kilometers difference are between the medieval and the boundary of antiquity and the modern boundary. Okay, thanks a lot for your attention. Not expired the time. Change the slide series. I loaded up the new slide series if somebody interested for. Good. Okay, we continue with Europe. We closed Europe, but the next question, when started, which is the birth date of Europe as civilization unit? Why so important? Because if we are looking at Greek and Roman civilization, it's focused to Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean Sea, this is the cradle, you know which is the cradle. It's a cradle of civilization. One of the most important reasons of discoveries, of course, construction of civilization, are geomorphological unit of Mediterranean Sea. If we are looking at the Roman Empire, which are the pillars of Roman Empire? For example, a Mediterranean polyculture. Mediterranean, somebody know which is the Mediterranean polyculture? Three plants, wheat, olive, and grape. These are the fingerprints of Roman Empire. Not by chance, when occupied eastern part of recent Hungary, Transdanubian area, the fingerprints is the grape and the wine production. Okay, but this period, it's closed at the end of antiquity and started a new Europe, a recent European civilization, not the same which happened on the time of Greek and the Roman Empire. Somehow the name is the same, but the content is different, basically different. Look at why. One of the first information, personally, for a human, for animal, for everybody, in the case of civilization, the same birthday. Not so easy to find the birthday of European civilization. But we can try. The first possible birthday when the Hans in the Chinese history named as Xiong Nu, because this folk came from the Chinese, the Great Wall, and moved eastward, Xiong Nu. And why important indicator in the case of European civilization's birth? Because the Hans crossed on the Volga River and pushed the Teutonic, the German tribes, to the direction of Western Roman Empire, which finally collapsed. Therefore, this is one possible birthday of European civilization. This is the guiding force, triggering effect. You know which is the triggering effect. A trigger on the shotgun, it's which necessary to push and launch interaction, which are not able to stop. This is the triggering effect. Sometimes it's small operation, push only the trigger, and launch the bullet, and we are not able to stop it. This is the triggering effect. The triggering effect was that the Huns pushed the German tribes into the direction of Western Roman Empire. It's very interesting because the Han Empire was one of the largest empire whole of the human history. It's occupied from the eastern part of recent European Russia, the Caucasus Mountain, to Hungary. It's a large area, but very interesting, inspired great nomadic empire, and recently from the Han language we are now 3 words only. 3 words which Roman diplomats wrote down in the diary because drank so much, lost the consciousness. No more information about the Han languages, only 3 name of the 3 Han beverage. No more. It's a huge empire, had like nothing, it's disappeared. But the Han's operation, when in the middle of 70s, in the 14th century, crossed on the river and pushed Germanic tribes. And the most famous king of Hans, Attila. And the key battle of him in the middle of 15th century, the Battle of Catalonian Plains. Okay, and some pictures about German and Teutonic tribes' age of migration. And I call your attention, some part of German tribes, Vandals, arrived even in the northern part of Africa. And very interesting that somebody came from northern part of Africa. Northern part. Okay, very interesting. I read some years ago one study, a DNA analysis of the northern African countries, and 5% German. And time by time, because there is for example, a hidden DNA came up, and time by time, in normal family in northern part of Africa, born blonde and blue-eyed baby. Everybody's surprising. The German DNA came back time by time, 5% in northern African population. It's a German from age of migration. Okay. The second possible birthday of European civilization happened 3095. The last talented emperor of Roman Empire applied a good device of problem solving. If somebody, for a majority of audience came from the Faculty of Economics, if somebody tried to reactivate one enterprises, one typical solution, divide smaller unit. Theodosius used the same technology, divided 2 parts, 2 large organization of empire, 2 smaller unit, Eastern and the Western Roman Empire. It was a very clever decision. Why? Because if we are looking Eastern Roman Empire survived the collapse of Western Roman Empire with 1,000 years. 1,000 years. It's a very clever operation. And of course, the Western is collapsed. Okay, look at the next possible birthday. 410. This was the Sacco di Roma. It's a plundering of Rome. For understanding the meaning of this plundering of Rome, necessary to know that on that time, on the time of antiquity, population of Rome was 1.4 million. 1.4 million. Why so important? For 2 reasons. First, recently we are living in the modern society. Therefore, we have on our brain some principles. For example, principles that everything develops. this year made much better iPhone than former, the last version. Everything improved. This is the principle of mentality of modernism. The history not verified this principle, because on the practice, the historical wave up, down, up, down. In the antiquity, on the heyday of Roman Empire, the population of Rome, 1.4 million. It's huge logistical operation. For example, channelization, organization of, for example, staple foods from Egypt, from Sicily. It's huge logistical operation. And European civilization was able to produce the same level only in the 19th century. Almost 2,000 years later. Up, down, up, down. Not by chance, if somebody visited in Rome, in capital of Italy, a lot of monuments survived the collapse of Roman Empire. Why? Because in the 16th century, in Rome, when on the heyday of antiquity, lived 1.4 million people, inhabitants. In the 16th century, on the heyday of Vatican state, lived 50,000 people. 50,000. Why? It's a collapsed, and only small part of the ruins used for lodging. Therefore, the monuments of antiquity survived. Why? Because any other places reused bricks and the rocks for construct a new buildings. In Rome, disappeared the people. Therefore, the Capitolium and other monuments of antiquity survived. First. Secondly, probably majority of audience watched in the movie of Gladiator. Gladiator. It's a historical movie. Oh yeah, almost everybody. If no, you can download and look at it. Why so interesting? If the people who knew and watched this movie, armed people with sword and any kind of the arms, prohibited step into the capital. Prohibited. Only bodyguards of the emperor wear a sword and the weapons. No any other person. And the last time when took under siege this country happened in the 4th century before Christ. Therefore, to the capital of Roman Empire for 800 years, armed people never stepped into. Therefore, the inhabitant of Rome imagine we are unhurted. It's not true. Defined by Visigoths, who plundered and destroyed the Roman Empire's capital. Okay, this is the official date of closing of Roman Empire, deposition of last king, last emperor, Romulus Augustus. Young people, he was only 15 years old. It's the last period. No real meaning, only he was the last crown emperor of empire. And very interesting, the last birthday of European civilization, the birthday of Muslim civilization. Why? Because if we are looking the history from Phoenician Empire through Greek Empire to the Roman Empire, the cradle of civilization, a Mediterranean Sea. But in consequence of great success of Muslim civilization, new European civilization lost 2/3 of Mediterranean area, occupied Arabian Peninsula, northern part of Africa, temporarily occupied Iberian Peninsula, and the majority of island. Therefore, its key factor of new profile of European civilization that lost a Mediterranean Sea. Before was a cradle of civilization and very strong connection between the boundaries, and in consequence of great success of Muslim civilization, a Mediterranean Sea became a boundary area and the front area between two civilizations. Okay, and time by time I try to analyze a historical situation, a case studies, milestone of evolution of a world economic system. Therefore, very useful to find and to use flexible theories. Flexible theories which usable in different situations. One of the key theory which I will use are theory of challenge and answer. Somebody know this theory? It's a quite old theory. Arnold Toynbee, he was the second Arnold Toynbee because anyway, challenge and answer. A personal situation, it's possible a challenge and a community level and civilization level. It's frozen down, over. But it's function. Anyway, look at your situation. We are closing this course with the example. Each challenging situation, for example, invasion of German and the Teutonic tribes, it was a challenge. Therefore, necessary to find a challenge. In the case of impersonal level and the civilization level, there are three kind of answer. The first kind of answer, solving the problem with traditional tools. If you remember the Gladiator, movie of Gladiator, which is the traditional answer, mobilizing a Roman army. And somebody know the place of the battle? Nobody. This is the Battle of Vindobona. Vindobona, Vienna, capital of Austria recently. This is the traditional solution. Mobilizing of legions and solving the problem, pushing up, pushing down Teutonic tribes. On the case of students level, the traditional tools, the traditional solution, learning. This is the traditional solution. Taking good grade and good exam. Okay, but time by time, the traditional tools didn't or don't work. Therefore, a second answer, innovation. Innovation. On the case of student, using a smart devices somehow, and some manipulation. And on the case of civilization, time by time, for example, problem forming an efficient and strong army. The original Roman army of peasants. But peasants had to go home at least 2 times. On the time of plowing and sowing, and on the time of harvesting. Therefore, it's a contradictory situation because long military campaign, not possible to interact. But if not able, go home the peasant, lost the fortune and lost the existence. Therefore, applied innovation. Which was the innovation? A professional army, a mercenary army, a mercenary army. Somebody know how long was our military service? 20 or 25 years long. It's a little bit longer than recently, because this was a profession, this is the innovation. And very important, the role of minorities in the case of innovation. Look at, for example, when Roman Empire fell into deep crisis, appeared a small minorities. This minority named a Christian community. And the Christian church saved
lot of element of Roman Empire. Official language, which is the official language of Christian Church? Latin. Which is the cloth? It's a Latin fashion. Which is used Latin legal, Roman legal system, Roman law. Therefore, and the Christian on the time of Roman Empire were minorities. Lived in urban area. Not by chance, a paganus is a rural people. Because the Christian lived in the cities. Okay. And finally, collapse. The third answer, it's a collapse, which happened with the Roman Empire, or it may happen with the students, didn't learn, no devices for compensate the missing of learning, and failed, which happened with the Roman Empire. Okay. Look at the first challenge of European civilization. In the European civilization, the first problem was changed the physical geographical area. If we are looking at the Greek and the Roman Empire unfolded in the area of Mediterranean basin. But the appearance of Muslim civilization pushed northward to the continental area. Basically different. In the continental area, it's a huge forest area. The soil is brown soil. It's very compact, very heavy, very difficult to plowing up. Therefore, the first innovation of survival, second answer, because the first answer, the Mediterranean agriculture didn't work in the continental area because geographical landscape different. Necessary to introduce a new innovation. Georges Duby, a French historian, described first time the medieval agrarian revolution. Why so important? Why so important? Because 90% of population, peasant. Very low the efficiency of agrarian production. Therefore, the basic condition of the survival introduced a new agriculture. Look at the most important indicator of new agriculture. The first one, a heavy plow. Why necessary a heavy plow? Because the brown soil is very compact, very difficult to plowing up. In the case of Mediterranean Sea, it's not so problem. Why? Because it's light soil and enough use only a light scratching plow. Draw power of light plow, Mediterranean plow, enough one ox or two slaves, no more. But for heavy plow, necessary 10 horses or 10 oxes. Rotation system, new form of the rotation system, why I will speak a little bit later, a new form of harnessing of horses. It's a peculiarity. Okay, look at the first one. The introduction of reason of introduction of new agriculture was a reason of different geographical landscape, physical geographical condition. A terra rossa, it's a typical soil and light soil of Mediterranean Sea. It's very easy to plow up, and the compact brown forest soil. And this is the heavy plow, asymmetrical heavy plow. And former time I told to you, but necessary to repeat, that using a heavy plow, it's transform not only the physical environment, but even the society. Why? Because necessary draw power, as I mentioned, 10 animals. No family, no household had 3, 4, or 5 animals. Therefore, for using a heavy plow, had to organize small communities and had to organize the mentality making a compromise, acceptable compromise for each participant. Therefore, a culture of compromise in European civilization appeared the lowest level, not in the political and the royal council, but the lowest level in the peasant families and the peasant household. Sorry, look at one movie about the function of heavy plow.
With 90% of the population on the land, any development in agricultural technology would affect everybody. And in the 7th century,
Sorry.
agricultural inventions came one after the other, fundamentally changed people's lives. The first was a new kind of plough. You see, up till then, the plough in general use had been little more than a digging stick pulled by oxen. It came from the Mediterranean, where it's still in use today in the Middle East, and it was good enough for the job of...
This is the scratching, classical scratching
But up here in North
plow
we got it nowhere.
key devices.
Soil's too thick. So, when around 700 AD, this came along, it made a very big impression. It had wheels, it had a knife to cut through the sod, and the ploughshare had a curved board attached to it. This new plough would cut through everything. Look.
But the Clotho professor is not contemporary.
Cuts open the sod and makes it easier for the ploughshare that follows. And then the curved board throws the soil up and away to one side, leaving a clean furrow. With a team of, say, 8 oxen in front of this, you could farm the thick, rich land up here that no earlier plough could ever have done. It was bloody hard work, but it could be done. So by about 900 AD, this plough was opening up north really fast, clearing the forests, producing more food, and in consequence, population was rising. Woo. Now, in those days, this would have had a team of oxen up front, not a horse. The plough and the oxen were very expensive. Few peasant farmers could afford the whole deal. So they formed cooperatives, each man bringing what he could. And as they began to work close together, they began to live close together in big groups, villages. That's why villages happened.
Good. Okay. Turn back to the main story. And the key question, which nation introduced a heavy plow? According to recent condition of historical knowledges, we can define 2 areas of origin. Sorry. Two folks which developed independently a heavy plow. The first one are Slavic people, a Slavic homeland located between the Carpathian Basin and the Baltic area. And the Slavic migration started around the 5th and the 6th century. Eastern Slavic people moved to eastward. Western Russian people and Dravidian and a lot of different tribes, and the Western Slavic people like Polish people, Czech people, Moravians, westward. Southern Slavic people like Bosnian, Serb, Croatian, Bulgarian moved southward. But this is the area. One grammatical root of the Slavic people, Slavic name, a slow, which means a marshland. This is a forest and a marshland area, and in this area, between the Baltic Sea and the Carpathian Mountain, developed the local people and they introduced a heavy plow. And very interesting, the story of distribution of heavy plow. Because in central and eastern part of Europe, distributed normal way, in consequence of Slavic migration. But very interesting, the story how appeared the Slavic peasant in England or Scandinavia or France. Somebody know which is the name of slave in France, in French? Esclave. And the English slave came from the slave. Why? Because the Teutonic tribes, Teutonic kingdoms would like to follow the same lifestyle like Roman Empire. But the Roman lifestyle necessary slaves. And the Christian people didn't make us slaves, but in peripheral area, a Slavic people, in that time, no Christian. Therefore, our early Teutonic kingdom organized a military campaign for hunting slaves. And Slavic people became the synonym of slaves. In English, in French, and I don't know other languages, but probably it's, there are other synonyms to the Slavic people, and distributed not only the Slavic slaves in this area, in the western part of Europe, but the knowledges too. The knowledges apply of heavy plow. Very interesting, other area where developed a heavy plow, the Khazar Empire. A Khazar Empire, Khazar, a Turkish people. But there is some interesting peculiarity of Khazar Empire, which was official religion of Khazar Empire. Somebody know? Khazar Empire official religion. Jewish. It's quite exceptional. Why? Because a Khazar Empire would like to organize a classical monarchy, one central emperor. But for this political transformation, very useful, a monotheism, introduction of monotheism. There were three offers for monotheism: Islam, Christian, or Judaism. Muslim were very strong on that time, therefore dangerous for Khazar elite. This is the same situation in the case of Eastern Roman Empire. It's quite strong, the Byzantine Empire, therefore decided Judaism. And the majority of Khazar elite transformed to Judaism. And very interesting story, because the Khazar Empire, it's a quite multicultural empire with nomadic people and settled down agrarian people too. And very interesting, for example, Hungarian tribes, some period lived in the frame of Khazar Empire. And very interesting, in the 11th century, in the Hungarian king's name list, there are 3 kings with name of Old Testament. Exceptional in contemporary Europe. 3 kings' name with Old Testament. It's good and close relation with the Khazar elite. And other side, which is interesting, took some DNA analysis with Jewish communities. And very surprising and very interesting, because after the collapse of Khazar Empire, a lot of Khazar escaped to Europe. It's an open question that to be Jewish, this is a religion or a folk. And in the European community of Jewish, a lot of people, DNA background, Turkish. Interesting to be, for example, making prejudice for Jewish people, not so easy, because some part if we are looking not the religious perspective, but the background and the ancestor, Turkish. But the history is not so simple that the people with prejudice imagine. Okay, but the Khazar Empire, in the Khazar Empire, on the steppe region, introduced the heavy plow similarly. This is some picture about the different region of Khazar Empire. Okay, look at the rotation system. Very important weakness of wheat culture. We are living in the wheat culture. That exhausts the soil. Therefore, 2 following years, it's not possible sowing the same place wheat. Therefore, introduced 2 field system, half arable land and half a grazing land. And the free field system saved a little bit more area. It's a free portion. It's a fall sowing, a spring sowing, and the grazing land. Introduced to Europe. This is the rotation, 2 field system, winter crop, fallow, winter crop, fallow, and the 3 field system, winter crop, summer crop, and the fallow. You can see it. Okay, new form of horse harnessing. Probably you know, I visited in Oktoberfest in Munich, you know probably. It's a fest of beer. It's used a traditional form of neck harnessing in the case of horses. Why dangerous? Because the body, the neck of horses is choking in the case of heavy cargo. Therefore, the draw power of horses is limited. Therefore, introduced a new, more efficient form of harnessing is a breast harnessing. Increase the power of draw power with 30 to 40%. It's very important, a key innovation. But very interesting, if we are looking at neck harnessing, survived the introduction of breast harnessing. Somebody made a plowing with animal? Nobody? I performed during my childhood, not a professional, only I worked with my father and I tried it. And in the case of oxen and the camel and the water buffalo, survived the neck harvesting. Why? Because the body and the form of back and neck different. You can see here on the case of cattle there is a bone. Therefore, the neck harnessing not slide back and no choking effect. And show this peculiarity a very important specialty of peasant household. A peasant household, a self-sustainable economic unit, not for producing to the market. Self-sustainable, member of the household, and no used innovation. The peasant society is very conservative, No introduction, no innovation, only no other way. In the case of horse, no way. Necessarily introduced a breast harnessing. But in the case of cattle, the traditional device worked well. Okay, sorry for that, because I don't want to, it's key table, therefore to the next occasion somehow I improve my technology, and I don't want to overcut this 2 different parts of the recorded. Sorry for that.